The first time I heard the words, I thought I was hallucinating. It was Sunday evening, the one day of the week my family gathered for dinner. My wife Claire had insisted her sister Sophie come too. Sophie was 26, outspoken and dramatic, the type who thrived on attention. I never got along with her much, but for the sake of peace, I always tolerated her presence. We were halfway through dinner when Sophie cleared her throat loudly, resting her fork on the plate with deliberate flair. "I have something to say," she announced. Everyone turned toward her. My wife, my parents, even my 10-year-old son who looked confused. Sophie's lips trembled, her eyes glassy with fake tears. Then she said the words that shattered my life in one breath. "I am pregnant. And the father is Mark. Mark. Me." The room froze. I heard the clink of my mother's glass hitting the table, the sharp inhale from Claire beside me. For a second, I thought Sophie was joking. She always loved stirring chaos. But when I looked at her, I saw the determination in her eyes. And then I saw something worse. The way everyone looked at me. No one laughed. No one doubted her. They believed her instantly. The accusation. What? I stammered. "That's not true. I've never." Sophie buried her face in her hands. "I am sorry, Claire. I didn't mean for it to happen. He told me not to say anything. But I can't hide it anymore." Claire's face turned pale, then red, her chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. She pushed her chair back, knocking it over as she stood. "Tell me this is a lie, Mark. Tell me right now." I stood too, my pulse thundering. Of course it's a lie. I would never. But the looks around the table told me otherwise. My parents exchanged worried glances. Claire's father shook his head in disgust. My son's eyes widened with confusion and fear. It was as if Sophie had flipped a switch. And suddenly, I was the villain in my own family. Why, they believed. The thing was, there was already suspicion about me. A few months earlier, Sophie had stayed with us after losing her job. During that time, she'd often make sly remarks, joking that I was a better husband than her sister deserved. She'd linger too close in the kitchen, brush past me on the stairs. I never encouraged her, but I never told Claire either. I didn't want to create drama where none existed. But Claire had noticed things. Once she accused me of looking at Sophie too long during a pool party. Another time, Sophie accidentally wore one of Claire's dresses that fit too tightly, and Claire had snapped at me for staring. So when Sophie accused me, it wasn't out of nowhere. She had been planting seeds for months. And now, everyone believed the tree had finally grown fruit. The fallout. Claire stormed out of the dining room, refusing to look at me. My son followed her, crying. My parents glared at me, while Sophie sat silently, hand over her stomach like she was protecting something precious. "Sophie," I growled, "you're lying. Tell them the truth right now." Her voice shook, but her eyes gleamed. "Why would I lie about something like this? Do you think I want this?" The manipulation was flawless. That night, Claire refused to let me sleep in our bedroom. I spent hours on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd lost control of my life in a single evening. My investigation. The next morning, I decided I wouldn't sit quietly while Sophie destroyed my family. First, I checked her social media. Nothing suspicious, though she had recently deleted a bunch of photos. Then, I checked her phone when she left it unattended on the counter. Locked. I considered hiring a private investigator, but I didn't have time. My marriage was hanging by a thread. So I confronted Sophie directly. "You're lying," I told her in the kitchen when we were alone. "You know I'm not the father." "Who is?" She smirked, sipping her coffee. "Even if you're right, who's going to believe you? Claire? Your parents? They already think you're guilty." It hit me like a punch. She didn't even need proof. All she needed was doubt. A hidden ally. The only person who seemed unsure was my son. He came to me one night, whispering, "Dad, did you really do that?" I knelt, looking into his innocent eyes. "No. Never. You believe me, right?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Aunt Sophie was talking to a man on the phone when she stayed here. I heard her say, 'I'll tell them it's Mark's baby. That way we'll both win.'" My blood ran cold. "Did you hear who she was talking to?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. But she sounded happy. There it was, the crack in Sophie's story. The trap. I decided to set her up. One evening, I told Claire I wanted to talk to Sophie privately. Reluctantly, she agreed, though she stayed close by, probably eavesdropping. I sat Sophie down at the kitchen table and said, "Fine. I'll take responsibility. But if this is my baby, I want a paternity test, immediately." Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she forced a smile. "Of course. That's what I want too." But I could tell she was lying. So I pushed further. "And when the test proves I'm the father, I'll leave Claire and be with you. Isn't that what you wanted all along?" Her mask cracked. She laughed, sharp and ugly. "You think I want you? Please. You're just useful." That was the moment Claire walked into the room. "What did you just say?" Claire's voice was icy. Sophie froze. I looked at Claire, relief flooding me. "You heard her." She admitted it. Claire's face twisted, torn between anger and disbelief. "Sophie, is it true? Did you make this up?" For a moment, Sophie tried to keep the act going. She held her stomach, whispered, "He's twisting everything." But Claire's eyes were sharper than ever. "Who were you talking to on the phone that night?" "The one Mark Jr. overheard." Sophie's eyes widened in panic. It was over. The truth. Under pressure, Sophie finally broke. She confessed she had been seeing an older, married man, her former boss. When she found out she was pregnant, he cut ties with her completely. Desperate and humiliated, she decided to pin the pregnancy on me, knowing the family would believe her because of the tension she had already created. "You've always been the golden boy," she sneered as the truth came out. "Perfect husband, perfect father. I just wanted to watch it all burn." Aftermath. The fallout was devastating. Claire sobbed for hours, torn between anger at her sister and guilt for doubting me. My parents apologized, ashamed they had believed Sophie so quickly. As for Sophie, she was disowned by nearly everyone. My in-laws cut her off. She moved away quietly, and we heard months later that she gave birth alone. Claire and I went to counseling. It took a long time for her to trust me again, but eventually, we rebuilt what Sophie had almost destroyed. I still think about that night sometimes. The way everyone's eyes turned against me in an instant. How fragile trust can be. How one lie can poison an entire family. But I also think about how the truth clawed its way out. And how, in the end, Sophie's scheme collapsed under the weight of her own malice.